Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing today on Wonderful Wednesday? Today we have a special guest today, which is none other than our great friend, uh, Jose, which I've been into a lot of audio calls on LinkedIn, and he is just really just shown himself to be a great, not only humble man, but also show himself as a person that you really want to get to know and everything like that. So I'm happy to introduce Jose today because, like I said, I just truly believe, like I said, it is going to be an awesome opportunity when we really see how people can really connect and inspire each and every single one of us. And I just truly believe when we do that, that's a great thing. So, Jose, how are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine. Today is a chilly day here in Houston. Not normally, but today is really chilly.
Awesome, awesome. And if you guys want to join into the conversation today, uh, the link is in the comment section of today's call. But I'll be putting that in there for you guys too as well. So if you guys want to join into the conversation today, the link will be right here. So I'm going to put it in not only in the on our YouTube channel. Now I don't know if we're streaming yet to Instagram, but if Instagram is having an issue, well, I just got to have see how that fixes out. So, but here it is. Here is the link to join. The link to join, and this will be the place that you can join into the conversation. And hello, Bernardo, glad that you're here with us, all the way from Uruguay, if you can believe it like that. I can't believe we're already reaching in Uruguay. I mean, really, I mean, come on.
Ah,
Everything like that.
Bernardo, ¿cómo andamos?
Yeah. So, and here's the link, and I'll put it into our LinkedIn too as well. So you, like I said, you guys, if you want to jump into the conversation with me and Jose and hearing of a story today, please do that. And just to let you guys know, we only have the availability to have 10 people to join on the call. So when you guys join in, what we'll do is shuffle people in and out because if it gets too big in a room, so to speak, um, that what's going to end up happening is it will kind of clog up the system, so to speak. So we can only have 10 on the call at a time, but we would love to have all of you on the call and everything like that. So again, we would love to have you. And Bernardo, I just sent you the link. Glad that you are here. So Jose, we have a mutual friend, do we not? And Angelica.
Oh yeah, Angelica has been part of my journey when I came back and begin to be here in LinkedIn. I met Angelica in a very particular way because I got connected with a lady that she's a brand specialist from Argentina. We became friends, and she one day she invited me to an event. She did like a networking event in a Saturday, and that day was Angelica. That day in that
Right.
event was Angelica, and we got connected, and wow, we became really friends. So she has been part of my journey. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Angelica, she is great people, and she's been a part of bringing humanity together's movement and community for a very long time, and she is a great person in her own right and everything like that. But when I started hearing the both of you talk on some of these LinkedIn audio rooms, I just knew something special was there. I just knew it and everything like that, and it all came to fruition. So let me ask you this, Jose, how long you lived in Houston?
Well, I have like a 15 years, maybe 15 years.
So where were you originally from before you went to Houston?
I'm originally from Venezuela. I'm Venezuelan born.
Okay.
Uh, my story that maybe I haven't never told it because as a kid, I grew up here in the U.S. My father, because I come from kind of a oil and gas dynasty because
Okay.
my grandfather began in the oil and gas when Venezuela has a long time oil producing, and back in the beginning of the 20th centuries, begin the oil production in Venezuela very early 1910, 1920 frame. So at that time, my grandfather came from the Netherlands. So my grandfather, that's why I'm Pereira Ruimwyk, because my
Okay.
grandfather arrived to the Maracaibo Lake in Venezuela working with a Royal Dutch Shell, what today is Shell. Okay, so he was a Shell worker, and he landed there, and he met my grandmother, that is a native Indian of Venezuela.
Wow.
There is a tribe in Venezuela called the Guayus. That is in the border with Colombia. So my grandmother was a Guayu. The Guayu is like a saying here in the U.S. a Cherokee. You know, they're very very traditional tribe, and my grandmother and my grandfather knew each other. My grandmother, she was a nurse working with Creole. Creole was the standard oil that today is ExxonMobil. So my grandmother was an ExxonMobil worker, and my grandfather was a Shell worker. So they got together, and then was born my mother. My mother became also an ExxonMobil worker, and my father, but that was maybe in the 60s that begin there was like a kind of beginning the transition. If you go to the story in the 60s, begin a lot of nationalization all over the world, and Venezuela was not the exception. So there was a guy that was a famous guy called he, he was like an energy ministry by that time in Venezuela, and he was one of the founder of the OPEC. My father worked with that guy, and he created a company, a Venezuelan company called Corporación Venezolana del Petróleo. That's today it still exists. I work there. That is the CVP. So that's long story short. My father was assigned to here to Tulsa to do his oil and gas master degree here in Tulsa. So I arrived here in Tulsa having like 3 or 4 years. And I stayed there like until having 11 years. So when we went back to Venezuela, Venezuela, as I said, had a lot of story with oil and gas. So I lived in a oil camp that is in the southern area of Venezuela called San Tome. That was basically an American camp because it was run by a company called Gulf Oil. That is the Gulf Oil company. In Venezuela, the Gulf Oil had the name of Mene Grande. And Mene
Okay.
Grande, when Mene Grande became the nationalization of the oil in Venezuela, my father was one of the founders. And by the way, when I final my BA, I began working with not Mene Grande. It was Meneven. I was a Meneven worker. It became Corpoven, that today is the CBP, and then it became PDVSA. PDVSA is the Petróleo de Venezuela, that today is the Venezuelan oil company. So 15 years ago, they sent me here to Houston, assigned to Citgo Petroleum, because Citgo Petroleum belongs to PDVSA. So I became a Citgo worker and did my career there, and finalized my career being the CEO of that company. So, but after that happened, my situation was hosted, but I will talk later on that. So that's my long story short, my story. It was like a 35-year career in the oil and gas, and I did like maybe 20 years in Venezuela and 15 years here in the US. And for some reason, my career, I always was in the international side. So I work with PDVSA, but always with joint venture with international company. So I work with a lot of international companies, always in partnership with PDVSA. So that's basically what was my career.
Wow. Now the thing that really shows up for me now, Jose, is I got to know. and I'm sure all our watchers on today's call who's watching this really, really like to know what it was really like to live in Venezuela. What and also to add on to that, what was so kind of enticing for you to go from Venezuela to the United States? Can you share that with us too as well?
Well, let me tell you, unfortunately, today Venezuela is a mess because it has this regime that is in Venezuela like 20 years ago. But if you go to back to the 80s, when I began working in PDVSA, I began in 1985. If you go back to Venezuela in the 80s, and the guy that is in Uruguay, maybe he can know it, because Venezuela at that time was the most democratic country of all Latin America. All the other countries like Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, Chile, Brazil were under communist regime. Sorry, communist regime. No, military regimes, and they were having a lot of dictatorship in those countries. So Venezuela, by that time, was a refuge country of all these people of all over the world, and was booming in the oil and gas. So Venezuela in the 80s was like the front door of Latin America. So in that time, anybody who wanted to do business in Latin America, or any artist, any musician that wanted to go to Latin America, the first place they were going was to Venezuela. I remember, Chris, when I was still in the school, in the college, in maybe 1979, 1980. Huh. I saw all the big musicians in Venezuela. I can tell you, I saw Michael Jackson in Venezuela. I saw Tina Turner. Uh, all the big rock bands that you can name it, I saw them in Venezuela. It was very common having those rock bands in Venezuela. Venezuela was a very modern country. So why I'm saying this, because at that time, the Venezuelan, we didn't have the spirit of immigrant, because our country was so good that nobody was never thinking to go outside of Venezuela. So I always got that connection with the US, because, as I said, I grew up here in the US, and my father always was coming. And when I began to work, I did a lot of work here in the US, but I always going back and forward. By that time, I was, to tell you the truth, I never was thinking to leave Venezuela, because Venezuela is a wonderful country, has beautiful beaches, wonderful weather, and the people of Venezuela are so friendly. So, unfortunately, today there are more than 7 million of Venezuela that have gone left the country, because the country today is a mess, a total mess.
Yeah. And then I truly believe the question then becomes, though, is which city is probably the best city to live in, especially in Venezuela. And what the first city to me that comes to mind is Caracas. So how nice is Caracas, though?
Caracas by that time was an awesome city. I can tell you, Caracas has a wonderful weather. Caracas weather maybe is all the year in the 60s, 60s, 65
Yeah.
degree, very nice, cool weather, very similar if you go to San Francisco, this type of weather, a very some kind cold but not so cold, has a beautiful mountain called the Avila. Is beautiful, always evergreen, and it's a very awesome city. But again, the country today is a mess. I About that time I work in Caracas, but I didn't live in Caracas. I live in a beach town called Puerto La Cruz. That I have the beach less than 1 mile from my home. So I literally,
Okay.
it's like living in Florida. I grew up less than 5 minutes, and I was in the beach. So
Now
it was.
that's something that where you can literally walk to the beach and say, not only was I at work, I was at the beach at the very same time. That's kind of uncommon.
I can tell you, I work in there was one of the best time in my life, because I remember that we went to a lunch we went to eat fish in the beach. So we
Yeah.
went to the work, we went to the beach, we eat fish, and then we came back to the work. Very easy because the beach was there.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to know a little bit. And see, I've said this many times on our LinkedIn audio programs and on other LinkedIn audio shows too as well. I truly believe in this, Jose. The better question to ask is not what you do, what you do, what you do. The better question to ask is who are you and everything like that. So we really want to know here at Bringing Humanity Together, and of course in partnership with Adaptive Strategies Group with our great partner Keith Kuperman. We want to know who you are, Jose. So the show is yours. So please tell us here your story on Conversation for Humanity. So Jose, we want to know who you are.
Well, I did this introduction so that people can understand where I come from, because as I did this long career in the oil and gas. I believe that was very successful because I always was, doing more challenging tasks. I begin with like a 4 or 5 startup, big startup. I was in one of the biggest oil fields today of the world that is called the Faja. So I was there. We built up a big refinery there, like 600,000 barrels per day refinery. So it was a very big project. And when I came here to the US, assigned to Cirgo is the sixth refinery complex of the US, has more than 6,000 gas stations here in the US. So it was a really challenging situation. But the problem it comes here that back in 2017 I became the CEO of the company, but unfortunately, if you go back to the story, Venezuela at that time already had almost 15 years with this regime that today is in place in Venezuela, and the situation was going every time worse and worse. There was a civil unrest, there was a turmoil, there was a lot of protest. There was a lot of people dead because of that. And then when I began to see all that stuff, I didn't like that, to tell you the truth. So I told my wife, you know what? I'm gonna get retired. I think I'm done with this. I had 35 years by the time working in the oil and gas. So what I did is I flew up to Caracas, where was the headquarters, and I talked with my boss. My boss by that time was the energy minister of Venezuela. Okay. So I went to talk with him, and I said, hey, I'm done. I'm gonna get retired. So we did a like kind of back and forward, and he accepted my retirement. I'm talking about October 2017. I flew up here to US. I began to prepare my retirement. I was ready to get retired, and then it was time coming Thanksgiving. One of my son was living in Aruba because we had a complex refinery in Aruba, and the other was living here in Houston, and I had one living in Venezuela. So we were planning to meet here in Houston for Thanksgiving because, again, I grew up here in the U.S. And being in Venezuela, I grew up in an oil American camp. So for me, the Thanksgiving always was a big thing in my family. So I was always, even in Venezuela celebrate more the Christmas. I had in my tradition celebrating the Thanksgiving. So we were preparing the Thanksgiving season, and like 4 days before that, I was in a movie with my wife. I'm a big fan of DC and Marvel, so we were looking I was the world premiere of Superman. was a
Wow.
was a world premiere of Superman, so I went to this fancy um, a movie theater that you dine and you take drinks. Okay, so I was with my wife, looking Superman, and then I received a phone call in the middle of the movie. I received a phone call, and then it was this guy. This guy tell, hey, Jose, you have to come tomorrow to Caracas. There's gonna be a meeting. That was a Saturday. He told me I had to go on Sunday because we were gonna have a meeting on Monday, And I asked him that what was the meeting about, and he told me that it was a budget meeting, a big budget meeting. And well, okay, I did it. I flew up the other day. I had a corporate plane, so I called the captain. Hey, we have to go tomorrow to Caracas. The other day in the morning, I was in Caracas. That was like a 5 hours flight. And yeah, I went to the hotel. I got prepared for the presentation. And Monday in the morning, I went and I did my presentation. It was a very big meeting. It was like 1,000 people there. When I finished that meeting, became my journey, because I was planning to come back to here to Houston. I was going to go to the airport and come back. I always did this trip like 1 day trip or hour trip. So I did the presentation and came back. My friend, I was in preparing to come back when I see coming in from the door. I always say these guys look like Robocops.
Yep.
Very 6 foot tall guys, with black suits, with mask, a skeleton mask, and they have here a sign that said DGCIM. I didn't know what the DGCIM was. I asked the guy who was beside me, who are these guys? What is the DGCIM? And the guy was scared. He said, Jose, that is the counter military intelligent police of Venezuela. I say, what these guys are doing here? And they asked for me. Who is Jose Pereira? And I said, I am. Huh. Let me tell you, that day began my journey. We were get caught as hostage during 5 years, because
Wow.
we inadvertently, the situation that happened is that at that time, the administration that was here in the US, that was the Trump administration, they were having big argument with the regime in Venezuela, and Trump had imposed a lot of sanctions. It was like he did with the Russia, with the Ukrainian war, very similar sanctions. They did
Right.
a oil embargo, they sanctioned the government, and a lot of things. And this guy didn't have the more clue thing to do that take us as hostage, because they wanted to get some leverage. And we were dual citizens. We were 6 guys. I flew up with my 5 top executives, and the 6 of us became the hostage. We became like what today is like a brand. We became the Citgo 6, because that is the name the press put us. Hey, kid, how's everything?
Everything's great. Sorry for being a little bit late. I was in the listening lounge listening. Thank you.
Okay. Well, so the situation inadvertently happened to us, and let me tell you, Chris, I never in my worst nightmare never thought that I could get caught in a situation like this, because you never think of this. Never, never, never. And let me tell you, today that I'm very connected with the hostage community here in the US. I'm going to talk later about that. I know all the people that have gone through this situation in other countries, and the pattern is always the same. I have met guys that were like, for example, environmental ecologist guys. They were in a trip and they were caught as hostage, or guys that were businessmen, or human rights advocates. There was a priest, a priest that was get caught in Niger. Guys that, regular people that get caught in this in the middle of this situation, because today I talk extensively about this situation, because this is something that is called the hostage diplomacy. So what that means is that those regimes that normally are, communist regimes like China or Russia or Syria or Yemen, all these countries, Cuba, Venezuela, what they do is they because they need to leverage their situation, so they get the people, they create sham charts and sham trials, and then they negotiate to you. So that's what this guy began to do with us. And let me tell you, at the beginning, I thought that was a mistake. I said, because you never think you can get in the middle of situations like that. Can you imagine you being negotiating between 2 governments? It's something totally bizarre. totally bizarre. And our situation when that happened, wow, at the beginning was terrible. Was really really terrible because this guy wanted to put a lot of pressure, and then we were the political pawns, and wow, I can tell you, we went through a lot of situations, and the first year when this situation happened, the situation began to go from bad to worse because the relations were cut, and then the ambassador of the U.S. was taken out, expelled, and so when we learned that the guy was out, we said, "Wow, who is gonna take care of us?" So we felt totally lost, and we were isolated because the other thing is that the six we were separated. So I saw my colleagues 1 year after. 1 year after I saw them, I heard about my wife 10 months after. So literally, we were the first year in totally isolation, totally incommunicated, totally without no clue, no clue, absolutely no clue what was going in the world, no clue, no clue. At some point, I lost the sense of the time. I didn't know what the time was. So one day they opened the door and they said, "Hey, you're gonna have a 1 minute call." So when I take the phone, it was my wife. It was my wife, and I told her, "Hey, how are you?" And she told me, "Well, we're fighting really hard to bring you back." And I said, "Well, I'm here. I'm alive." So after that call, we learned that they were really having a lot of negotiation. Let me tell you, my wife and the other five wives begin to talk with the U.S. government since day one. So they were on board on the situation since day one. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they begin to try to do behind the scene negotiations. So because there was no ambassador, they contacted the UN. So a UN commission flew to Venezuela to see us. So these guys were allowed because it was a UN, Venezuela is member of the UN, so they could not say no. So the UN went, and when the UN went to see us, they saw that we were in a really really bad shape. I can tell you, at that time I lost 100 pounds. 100 pounds in 10 months. So literally 10 pounds per month. And because the food was terrible, terrible. Sometimes we didn't have no food. And well, when that situation happened, this guy went to the government and said, "Hey, this guy is gonna die. This guy are gonna die. So you have to take care of him." So this guy, because the situation that was now 2018, 1 year after 2018, the situation in Venezuela was terrible because the situation was bad, but because of the sanction, become worse. So there was the population was starving. There was no food. There was no medicine. So what my family did is that my eldest son, he flew to Colombia. He moved to Colombia, and when he moved to Colombia, he was buying the food in Colombia and sent them by boxes to Venezuela. And a guy took the food, and his wife cooked and sent me the food, and that's the way we begin to have food and medicine. So when I begin to receive those food, I said, okay, I need to be communicating with my wife. So we took the thing that we begin to smuggle letters in the trash cans. We begin to smuggle letters, and it worked. It worked. It went through, and my wife answered me the letters, and we begin to do that every 2 days. Letters back and forward. I began to write like a crazy. I didn't have nothing to do, so I was all the day writing. So I began to write, and let me tell you, I got surprised when I came back that I saw that my wife had that pile of letter compiled. And because the way it worked is that the guy that was providing me the food, he took the letter, he took a photo of the letter and sent it by phone. My wife printed the letter, and then she transcribed it in Word. And this guy, when he has a bunch of them, he sent it by mail. So she literally had all the letters in physical. So So when I came back, what I did is I began to go through that letters, and today that's going to be the book that is going to be out now. That is called From Hero to Villain: The True Story of the Citgo Six. Because what happened with us is that after that first year, our families, the six families, they were working together. They created. By the way, I have it here. I'm going to show it here. They created this the Citgo Six coalition. I don't know if you can see it here. The Citgo Six coalition. So the six family were fighting very hard. They were going to the Congress and doing a lot of stuff. And they decided to go big to the press because they were being silent. And when they went to the press, there was a guy that is a pro bono this strategy, communication strategies. So they began to be very big in the press. They went to all the shows that you can imagine. All the families, or all the six families were all over the place in the press, and that began to create a lot of noise. That was creating a lot of noise, and at some point, one journalist, tell you the truth, I don't know who was, decided to call us the Citgo Six because it was more easy than be naming six guy. So we became the Citgo Six. Citgo was the company, and six because we were six guys. So it was a catchy name. So we became the Citgo Six, and well, that was the name. We became the Citgo Six. But by the way, one of my colleagues. He's a musician, and he always joked that he said that one day we're gonna create a rock band named the Citgo Six, because that was what happened to us. And after that big pressure, they decided to put us together. So 1 year after, one day they opened the door. They told me to grab my things. I'm gonna go to another place. And when we went to this tiny room, it was the first time I saw this guy 1 year after. 1 year after, we figured out that these guys were alive because we didn't know, had no clue. So wow, 1 year after when we saw us was like a wow, that was amazing, amazing. And we did a lot of stuff after that because we were guys that we were always in the planning and strategic side because everybody that knows how the oil and gas work is very strategic thinking. Everything is planned, and you always are creating a scenarios and likelihood of a scenario. So all these things, we decided to convert that in a plan for us to survive. So that's the way we created that plan. And let me tell you, Keith and Chris, I got so surprised about how these things work because we did a lot of common sense. But today, I understand that there was a kind of combination of common sense, a lot of combination of maybe techniques that we knew, but there was a lot of intervention of spirituality. The intervention of the hands of God guiding us in doing things because that's the way it worked. That's the way it worked. And when we created that plan, the situation for us began to change so fast because the days passed really fast. It was fast. The time began to go really fast, and we stayed doing that 4 years. 4 years doing that. And one day they opened the door, and we realized that we were released because there was a prisoner swap. October 1st in 2022. One day, 6 a.m. in the morning, they opened the door. They called us the Citgo Six. They said, "Hey, Citgo Six, come here to the door." So when we went to the door, they said, "Dress up. That you're gonna have a meeting." And that was the fourth time that we were expecting to have because we were having a conversation. But there was an ambassador. There was having the negotiation in Venezuela among us. So he had flew like 3 times to Venezuela. So we were expecting to have him the fourth time. So we dress up, and this guy said, "No, put your civil clothes because you're free." And when the guy said, we're free, how is that? So when we went to the director's office, we saw a lot of doctors, and they begin to do all the medical tests and all the stuff, begin to fill out a lot of paperwork, and then they put us in armored truck. And when we saw that we were heading to the airport, they said, wow, this is really happening. It was really funny for me that when we get to the airport, we went to a hangar, and it was a PDVSA plane. I knew that plane because I flew on those planes all my life, so I recognized the plane. We were flying in a PDVSA plane. So these guys, they said that we were going to have a 1.5 hour flight, and we were like, we didn't know where we were going, because to Houston was 5 hours. So we said 1.5 hours. We said, are we going to Cuba? so yeah, because Cuba was 1.5 hours from Venezuela. So we were really thinking we were going to Cuba. Oh, we're going to Cuba. This guy, we landed in a Caribbean island called San Vicente and Grenadine. And when we landed there, we like 5 minutes after, we saw the U.S. plane coming, and then was this ambassador that he rescued us. And when I was going to the other plane, I saw two guys coming back, and I realized that we were swapped by the two nephews of the Venezuelan president. These guys were here in a jail in Florida. They were in a jail in Florida. So they were we were swapped with these two guys. So I saw the two guys going to the Venezuelan plane, and with the six of us to the U.S. plane. And we landed here in San Antonio in a military base. When we were in the air, like I remember, that movie that Ben Affleck did, Argus. Did you see Argus? Remember that the scene when they are flying from Iran, and then the captain said, "Here, we're safe. We're entering American air." That exactly happened to us. That the captain went out and said, "Hey, now we're safe. We're entering in the U.S. Space." Everybody was crying. Everybody was hugging. Clapping. Unfortunately, there was nobody recording that moment, but I have it here. and when that happened, I had beside me this ambassador, and then he told me, Jose, the president has called your family. So the president called directly. He personally announced that we were released. And after that, I told him, can I talk with my wife? And he gave me his phone. He gave me his phone, and I called my wife. And I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, mommy, I'm flying. I'm flying back." And she said, "Yeah, I have already talked with the president." She was in shock that the president called her. so 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 I told her, "Okay, what is your plan?" And then she said, "No, they're telling me that I can go tomorrow to see you." Tomorrow? No, I want to see you now. So we were going to land in San Antonio. I live in Houston. It's 2 hours. She has a small store. I told her, "No, close that store and come to San Antonio." I talked with the ambassador, and I said, "Hey, to come." And when I landed, all my family was there. All my family was there, and it was a funny moment for me, because when I came from going to the hangar from the tarmac, I saw a little tiny guy that it was my grandson. He was born. I knew him because I always was looking photos of him. So my daughter-in-law, she always was showing photos. "Hey, this is your grandpa. This is your grandpa." So he recognized me. And he came to me. And the story after that is I came back. I'm here.
Wow. Keith, what's your take so far on Jose's story?
I just can't wait to see that. I could see this all in a movie playing out, like the reenactment of this whole entire story, like a mini series. But no, amazing. I'm I'm pretty much speechless. I mean, I think back at times in my life where I thought that one day, 1 hour, one moment was like the end of the world, and then you think about the resiliency that you showed, that you were able to just sit back and just have faith and believe that everything would work out the way it was supposed to work out and you would be reunited with your family again. It's amazing. I just thankful to hear your story, and I'm just looking forward to ordering your book and reading more about it and just understanding a little bit more of the background.
But let me tell you something. Something that I learned, and this has been like a learning process today to me, because there are things that you do like in automatic, but when you begin to think about the process, is that you begin to understand that, because it's part of the human nature, you know, because we all of us has that inner force that not sometimes you don't know you have it there. So when you're in this extreme circumstance, is that if you really work it out, is that you can, unleash that inner force. I believe that's what happened here, because let me tell you, I always say this. I today can clearly identify the hands of God in our situation, because why? We were six guys. We were not friends. That is something that I want to say here. We were not friends. Of the other five guys, I only knew two of them. The other three guys was the first time I saw them in the plane. So we were not friends. So when we got this 1 year after, when we were put together and we began to talk who we are, all of us were guys with long-term marriage, 30 years plus. There was not a divorce guy and a three-woman guy. No, no. Six guys with a long-term marriage. All of us very, very family oriented. Great kids that loved us. So we did all of us had that pattern. So it was very easy to talk about family and family ties and all this stuff, because all of us were talking that same language. Let me tell you something. What is the probability the six guy that doesn't know and they go through the situation have the same pattern? That has to be the sign of God. So
I
that
agree.
it was like a social lab that was going with us. It was like a proof of God. I don't know how to say it, but so when we begin to talk and we decided to create this plan, and and all of us had this we were really very plan oriented. And let me tell you, one of my guys, Alirio, he was the plan keeper, because always has to be somebody, because this is something in a group. Everybody has to have their task, so everybody was clear what was the task they had to. So he was the plan keeper, and he was serious with that. We had a daily plan. In the morning to the breakfast, then we had to clean, then we had to exercise, then we had to read, then we had to write, then we had to play, then we had to pray. So we were all the day with that plan. Everybody was following the plan. And at some point, if somebody deviated from the plan, that guy came, hey, stick to the plan. And we were all, it was like a routine, a daily routine that we were following. And the other thing was that if for some reason somebody was down, immediately the rest came to support them. So we create like a support group. It was really, I can tell you, I feel proud that what we did. We met in December, that we were proclaimed by the mayor of Houston. By the way, he created the Single 6 Day here in Houston. So we were surprised. We were called at last minute to go to the mayor's office, and it was a proclamation. So sorry. Mami, te amo ahorita que tengo una reunión. Okay, so when we met there 1 year after, and we were talking, with their wife and all the families, I told them, man, I feel so proud of what we did. I feel so proud, because really it's difficult to be in that extreme situation. In not only in a extreme situation, we were living in a closet. We were in a 100 square foot room that didn't have windows. We didn't have windows, so we were totally locked. It was like living in a closet, and we did it, and all of us did it. Let me tell you, we did it, and today I see all of them, and all of them are great. All of them, not all of them did, because in my case I decided to be vocal like today I am. Some of them decided to go quiet and silent. I understand that they want to, be quiet with their family. But all of them are okay. We saw us, and this is like we created like a bond. I remember the movie, The Band of Brothers. I believe we became like a band of brothers.
Wow, that is amazing. And the really thing that gets me, Jose, is for me, it comes in this kind of dynamic, and it shows up to me as a question to you that I truly believe is going to be very, very monumental for all our audience tonight. When you're going on that plane, and of course you are leaving something behind to a certain degree, and you were going to some place probably in your mind it was going to be safe. You was going to just really in anticipation get there. Did you really ask yourself, this was happening for me in that kind of dynamic versus to me? Because if you look at it being done to you, you're going to end up saying, oh, I can play the victim card, I can feel sorry for myself or anything like that. Did you actually take that spin on it and say, hey, this is going to be a great gift for me and maybe all the people who's on that very plane? And like you said earlier, when you really think about it, all those people that you may not even have an alignment with or even an agreement with, but you really had that shift in that moment on that plane to where everyone became one. Do you see it that very same way?
Yes, let me tell you, this is something that today I talk extensively, because everything in your life, and this is part of that, what today I talk, that anything in your life is the matter the way you take it. If you decided to go in a positive or in a negative way. I can tell you, I'm not gonna say that it was easy, because as I said, the first year we were hopeless, lost. We didn't know what to do with our life. At some point, even we saw bad things, and because we were going through a terrible situation. So at some point you have some thoughts, the negative thought, that you even are thinking that, okay, I'm done with that, I'm gonna put finish of this. So at some point I was in that. But when we get together and we begin to understand all what was going on, all what our family was doing, because now I'm having communication with my wife, so I literally was really aware of all what was going on. Oh, that was a game changer. My situation began to evolve at some point, that we were really, really sure that we were going to come back. I can tell you, 1 year after before, I'm sorry, we were released, as I said, there was some quiet conversation that the American government was having with Venezuela. There was this ambassador that he was who rescued us. He did the first trip 1 year before. So the day he met us, he stayed like 2 hours talking with us. I remember when that meeting finished, because he wanted to know how we was, and he got surprised when he saw us with our morale so high. And this guy is a green beret, that has been in all the wars, and he told us, "Wow, I'm surprised how I see you. We were really very strong. The six of us, really strong." And that guy, he was surprised when he saw us. He didn't see us break it. He saw us with strong morale. And I told him, I remember when he was coming, he was going, I told Ambassador, you know what? I don't know when, but I know we're gone. I don't know when, but I know we're gone. And I was I was mentally prepared to go. So I told my wife, because my wife was like at some point she was really bad. It was broke because this was a roller coaster. I began to coach her. I was telling her, don't go down. You have to pick up. I'm fine. We're gonna go out. And I was so convinced that I was gonna go out that at some point I have a small luggage that I in my mind I had prepared the day I was gonna go out. So I prepared my luggage and I put it in a corner. I said, this is gonna be the luggage that I'm gonna go, and I came back with that luggage. So when I was going landed going from the plane, I was with my luggage, and my daughter always tells me that she saw me smiling with the luggage, and she said, my dad is coming from a vacation. But what was happening in my mind is that I was thinking, you made it. You made it. So that made me, I was smiling. I felt like you made it and you're here back. So my thing here is that the people in any adversity in life isn't the matter that they take it. And this is something by choice. By choice. So that's why today I tell the people, anything in your life you can survive it, but it's your choice the way you decided to overcome the things. And I experienced it. So something that happened to me.
Wow. What's your take on that, Keith?
It's amazing because it's like you're manifesting it, that you're like, yes, I'm going to come back. This is the luggage that I'm taking with me, and it's just everything. It's really just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And for me, from coming from the career of working in humanitarian disaster response, that was the main thing that we did. We showed up on scene, and it really wasn't about giving them a blanket. It wasn't about giving them a comfort kit or a client assistance card to give them money. It was about being the light. It was about providing them that hope.
Yeah.
And wow, it's like, and I'm still thinking back to the synergy of having a collective group of people that you only knew one other person, and then you all having the same background, and that's really tough to have, because I'm thinking in my head right now about 6 different people I know, or 10 or whatever, that I don't think I have that many people that are really much alike, that
You
like
know,
really
I heard a story that I had to go back to that. There was an experiment that NASA did some years ago when they were planning to put a man in Mars. So they put like a small container, I believe was in Siberia, someplace there, and they put 6 guys there and let them 1 year how they behave. And when they came 1 year after, 3 of them were mad, went kind of crazy, and 2 of them were totally, separated because they have a big argument. So human nature can behave that way, but at the same time, you can do what we did. That we decided to go in the same way. I remember. I remember that I can tell you during the 4 years we had, I don't say that we could have small argument, but every time that something was going, I don't know, I left some food and the guy didn't like that I left that, I didn't wash the dish, whatever. Everything we did it like a board. We got together, everybody raised hand, said what was wrong. The other day, apologize and move on. So we never left the things to go more than that. That is something that today you can do it in your normal life. You can do it in your
yep.
marriage. You can do it in your marriage. How many couples doesn't divorce because they don't like where the toothbrush is put in the bathroom or whatever? Or
Or who's leaving the toilet bowl seat up?
yeah, yeah.
you know
So no, I got divorced. Why? Because I don't like how you live the toilet.
Yeah, and
so
I
so
think that it's so important what you're saying, that like this is why the gift that you're giving the world by letting people hear about your experience, about sharing your book with them, about helping other people that are currently dealing with situations where their loved ones are currently in hostage situations, but also just building resiliency, because the bigger things that happen to us, like our story, we can drill that down into something, even if it's at a professional level, that's going to impact us personally. And just like you said, with any relationship, it could be the smallest thing that happens. It's so important for us to stop, to pause, and to just listen to the person and understand where they're coming from and try to work it
Mhm.
out and then get past it. It's not just to say, yes, we'll talk about this tomorrow, I'm busy. If the relationship is important enough for you, they should be important enough for you to have
Okay.
your time so you can fix it. So it's great to see that you were able to get past that. And as we know, when people are in stressful situations, sometimes they don't act accordingly, where it's not everything like it's in a storybook that this is what you should do. But amazingly enough, you were able to get out and then still continue to collaborate even after your experience together. That it wasn't just like a breaking point. That it's like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to see Jose anymore. But it's amazing that, and that's a true testament to who you are.
Let me tell you, I got surprised that the other day during Thanksgiving, I was interviewed by ABC. I did an interview here in ABC because that day, as you can recall, there was doing a prisoner swap in the Middle East. You know, the hostage situation that is in the Middle East. They did a pause in the war, and they swapped some prisoners. So I received a call from one of the journalists. By the way, I met him here in LinkedIn. He heard me in one of these audio rooms, and he called me. Said, "Hey, Jose, are you willing to come here to the station here in Houston to do an interview?" I said, "Yeah." Was Thanksgiving, so we were talking about the hostage situation, and it was kind of funny because the lady they interviewed me was the same lady they interviewed me the day I came back. One day after I came to my house, I stayed 10 days in the military base of San Antonio in a decompression program, and 10 days after I came to Houston. The day after, that lady interviewed me in the store of my wife. So she literally was interviewing me 1 year after, and she put me the interview she did 1 year before. I was not aware, and I was saying exactly what I'm saying today. So my mindset by that time was already set to do what today I do. Because when I was there, I didn't know when I was going to come back. I didn't know even if I was going to come back. But I was so convinced that I was going to come at some point that I was going to be prepared what I wanted to do after that. For me, it was a surprise that the path because again, I think there are a lot of signs of God in this because when I came back, I learned that, by the way, our kids had done so much for us that they created literally this Bring Our Family Home campaign was a creation of our families. So one of the daughters of one of the guys that was with me, literally she was the founder of the foundation. So they created this foundation that was to put together all the Americans that have family hosted in the worldwide, and they begin the first time to work together. So there is a famous muralist from Iowa called Isaac Campbell. He came and said, "Hey, I want to work with you." So they created a mural that in Georgetown in DC, with our faces, with 20 faces. It's a alley with 20 faces, and so I had 1 month that I came back. I told my wife, you know why? I want to go to Washington. I want to take photos in the mural because the way the mural was created is a technique that he used that is done with wheat and glue. So it's like a wallpaper of wheat and glue. So, because the way that the mural was conceived is that in that time it began to faint. So the intention of the mural was put how the people life are fainting when the time passed. And at the end of the mural, today it was tear up because it was totally fainted. Those 20 faces almost 17 hands come back. Of those 20 faces, today almost 17 are back to the US. Only are like three of them of the original 20 faces. One of them is this basketball player Brittany Griner. Now she was there in the mural too, and so I was planning to do this private flight to Washington. It became to be an event because I was not aware that I was the first hosted that went to that mural. So when the people in Washington knew that I was going there, they organized an event. When I got there, there was ambassadors and congressmen, a lot of people there. I was like overwhelmed. I have only 1 month. Like I have come back, and when I saw all those people, and the press, and I was like a kind of overwhelmed. But I begin to meet the families, the have people being hostage, and it touched me so much my heart, knowing those stories and knowing that my case was not unique, that I begin to help them. I begin to talk with them. I begin to meet them by phone, personally, by Zoom. And today we're connected. Today are connected. There are some of them that still have families hostage, and anytime they need some help, they call me. They call me. We are in contact. Today, I'm connected with the foundations that work in this area. They are always calling me. I am always supporting them. So I went to that path because I got so touched that by this, that today that's why I feel that I needed to do something. That's why I begin to do what I do today.
That is so powerful. Go ahead, Keith.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I was just going to see. So, Jose, I just want to make sure we have adequate time to go over, what's happening now with you. So I know that you have this book that's out right now. So if you could tell us more about your book, that'd be amazing. You could tell us about the
Yeah, well,
story
today
behind your book.
I have several things going on, but today that my priority is my book because the way, as I said, the way I wrote my book is based on this letter. Let me tell you, I couldn't have put it that book 1 year before because I had it almost ready 1 year. But the way I decided to do this way is because I said, okay, I put that story out today. Nobody knew me. Who was I? A guy that came back and that's it. By the way, nobody knew even who we are because they were always was talking about the Siglo 6, Siglo 6, Siglo 6, Siglo 6. So I wanted to put faces to who was behind the Siglo 6. So I decided that first go to my healing process. First, I begin to go to a lot of. I went to a big trauma center today. By the way, the guy became my friend, the director of the trauma center. We are friends. He's gonna be one of the guys that is gonna in the introduction of my book. Uh, I begin to go to therapies, and after I begin in that process, I decided to open my social media. For me, it was kind of really I I was like a baby with a new toy because in my previous life I never had social media because I was so involved in the oil and gas that I never had time to be in social media. So I was brand new in this. So I remember the first thing I did, open a Twitter account, and then I opened a Face account, and then in like 5 months after, I opened my LinkedIn account. And LinkedIn is where I found that wow, this is a powerful tool because you begin to know people. And when I begin to talk more and more and more, I begin to get contacted by the press, contacted by podcasters doing and I saw that I had a good vehicle to begin to talk about this, and it began to come more and more and more and more and more. It was something that it was because my message, the people begin to hear it. Because I really wanted to put my message in two ways, that raising the awareness of this situation, but at the same time, telling the people the things in the life you can overcome it. Because I went to a hostage situation, but you can go to any situation in your life. anyone, and the pattern is always the same. It comes inadvertently. You're not prepared. You had to be focusing how to deal with it. You had to have the mindset. You had to get connected to your loved ones. You had to look your spirituality, and you had to be sane in your body and spirit. So you had to do all in anything in your life. You had to do the same thing. That's why I came with my coaching program. So the way I decided to, because my first book was a very big book. It was like 600-page book, because as I begin in the beginning of my story, I have a particular family story. So I decided to put my book in three phases. So my first book is going to be the story of the Circle Six. My second book is going to be my personal story. And the third book is going to be the things that you can do after you overcome an adversity. In a particular case, how to handle a hostage situation. Then let me tell you, the people doesn't know that when you come back as hostage, this is the small piece of the iceberg. Because the situation, I always say that it's literally like coming in a time machine. It's literally like if you come in a time machine, because you come in a world years after, and your life has been in a cage. And when you come, is another world, by the way, the post-pandemic world, totally changed, a new world. This little guy, the first time I begin to handle it, I didn't know how. I forgot how to handle a phone. So you begin to have a lot of things that you have to deal. So the way I decided to write this book, from hero to villain, the true story of the Seiko Six, is not only talking about the case itself. I want to leave the legacy that anything in your life you can survive it, because this has the inspirational thing that my family, my kids, all what they did, that hard work they did to bring us back, because all of this happened because the family fight it so hard that at the end the US government took the decision to do what they did to bring us back. So that is what today I call my legacy. My legacy is that the person when finished the book, when they finish, they say, wow, if this guy went through this and he can survive it, you can survive anything in your life. That is what I want. If only one person get that message, for me, it will be good.
And when you really think about it, Jose, it's that one person that probably it really will click for, and that's probably, again, that's what matters most and everything. But this is also what Patricia said just a second ago. What would you say, Jose, would be this experience literally a blessing in disguise?
Let me tell you, yes. Believe me or not, yes. Today, I'm very connected to my church. I serve in my church. I attend a group that is called the Golden Heart. We are guys over 60. So I'm a youngest, but a very elder guy. I assist to a group here in Houston that is a um, very senior businessman here, that we have a group, and with all of them today I am connected, and I feel that even there was a dark moment, I got lessons behind. So yes, the answer of that is yes. Yes.
Awesome, awesome, love it. Keith, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so Jose, so as you were mentioning, your story could impact so many other people that are going through their trials and tribulations throughout their life, that it's not just for that particular situation. So, what advice could you give to someone that, let's just say, let's just say they're faced with something that they feel that they don't get past. Let's just say they've either lost a loved one, or they feel they've lost their job. They feel like there's no end in sight. How could you help them become more resilient? What could you do? How could your story really interact and impact their life?
Because the first thing that somebody that's going through any struggle in their life, the first thing is try to be focused in the situation because this is very important. Be focused, focus and calm, because sometimes when you are not focused and you're not calm, that's where the depression and the anxiety comes. So that's the first thing you have to do. Focus, understand the situation that you're going through. Then you have to try to, even if it's a bad situation, try to have the positive mindset, because it will be very different if you look at in a positive that if you look at it in a negative way. That is the thing. Second thing. The third thing that I said is never navigate these things alone. You need to go to your loved one, the people that support you. Believe me, when you're going to any adversity, the people that love you always will, even if you're separate for some reason, they will get together. And if you don't have nobody, go to your church. Go to your community. Look to support, but don't do this alone. The other thing is you have to try to keep your mental and physical health, because if you go to a bed and go depressed, you're gonna die. So you're having a family that having a problem, and you go to the bed, so it's not gonna be only the family, it's gonna be you too. So you have to do things, walk, yoga, whatever. When we were in our situation, I can tell you, we were doing daily exercises in that tiny place. We did yoga, we did static running, we did cardio, we did push-up, we did a lot of things. We were all the day doing things, you know uh, and look your spirituality. Whatever you believe, look for that. If you believe in God, go for God. If you believe in Buddha, go for Buddha. If you believe in Allah, go for Allah. If you believe in higher power, go for it. In our case, we were always praying and reading the Bible. And today I'm very connected to the church. By the way, I have here, this is the book of my pastor. He he gave it to me because I did a testimony in the church, and I keep it here. And my pastor today, I'm really connected with my church, and I serve in my church. So you know. The, anything in your life, you can overcome it, even if that if there is a fatality or whatever happened, you can overcome it. There is a book called Why Bad Things Happen to Good People, uh, that talks about this, that sometimes the people believe that God abandoned them. God never abandoned you. God never abandon you. And sometimes you go through this situation and you don't know why you're going through it. But when you go that and look the picture through the mirror, sometime later, maybe you will understand why you went through that. I remember always the speech of Steve Jobs in Stanford when he talked about when he was fired from Apple, and he founded Next, and then Next was bought by Apple, and he came back to Apple, and he always said that he had to be fired to go to the next stage. So that's why he became so big in Apple, because he had to go to that loss. Sometimes bad situation had to happen in your life to go to the next level, to the next. But you have to have the mindset for that.
Thank you, Jose. And you've mentioned connection multiple times. So let's just say if any of our audience members would like to stay connected with you and follow your journey, how would you say that they should do so? What would be the best way for them to stay connected with your journey?
Well, the people that in LinkedIn, of course, LinkedIn is a good platform, because I always are attending. I do with Angelica. I'm going to have an audio. I believe it's tomorrow. I'm going to have with Angelica, and this is one way. I have my webpage. It's very easy. It's joseconnect.com. Is that in my webpage? By the way, I have my YouTube channel too. That I'm posting things there. It has been growing. I'm amazed how much people are going to my YouTube channel, because I'm posting things related. Today, I talk about not only resilience, I talk about leadership, because my previous life, I did a lot of leadership. So I talk about leadership too. So I combine those two things, because I say today that if you want to be a good leader, you have to be a resilience leader. So I can be done that way, but the most easy way is here in LinkedIn. I'm also acting in Facebook, but I love LinkedIn. I have learned that LinkedIn is a wonderful platform that wonderful people like you guys.
Well, thank you so much, Jose. We appreciate you joining us here today on Conversations for Humanity. And I'm going to kick this back over to Chris Berryman, the founder of Bringing Humanity Together.
Yeah, thank you so much, Keith. And I've just already put it into our social media. You guys, please connect with Jose. There is the link on LinkedIn and then on YouTube. There it is as well. But I got to ask you, Jose, and this is something that's really, really been on my mind, is hearing from you today and your story. The thing that really gets me is, do you make it about others and not about you? And do you put it on their timetable, not on yours? And you truly want to get to know who they really are?
Well, this is part of the journey. Understand that at some point you have like it's like a call, like a mission
Yeah.
that that serves others, serve others. Because when you realize that you went through this situation for some reason, there is a purpose behind. So that's why today I feel this passion to do this. And let me tell you, I don't know where this journey is gonna land me, but well, I'm enjoying it.
Well, first and foremost, me and Keith are so humbled and honored to have you a part of Bringing Humanity Together and also Adaptive Strategies Group. And we're just so humbled by that very opportunity in and of itself. And we can see great things happening. I truly believe in that, because I truly believe in this, Jose. That one connection, which of course will turn into a relationship, that relationship, of course, will turn into collaboration, and collaboration will build out community. I truly believe in that.
Definitely is that way.
Yeah.
I have met here wonderful people. This morning I was in event with Annie, Annie Awesome, and he's a wonderful guy. I
Yeah.
remember that when I begin, as I said in May, less than 1 year ago, he was one of the guys that gave me a lot of advices, a lot. And there's a guy called Leslie, he's from Nigeria, Leslie Ademola. He gave me a lot of nuggets. And one day I told him, "Why you tell me so much?" Because I was thinking, "Oh, this guy want to sell me something." No, he said, "I love to help people." So there are people really that love to help people. So
Yeah.
that's great.
That's where it's at. So again, me and Keith are so humbled by this opportunity with you today. And again, if you guys want to come share your story on Conversations for Humanity, please reach out to myself. And the link is already in the description of today's call, or actually, more importantly, it's actually in the comment section of today's call. And we're looking forward, Jose, to seeing great things with us in this new partnership. So, from all of us here at Bring Humanity Together and Adaptive Strategies Group, have a wonderful Wednesday. Make your day, and we'll see you on the next Conversation for Humanity. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so